Start with the main event and work our way backwards, Frank. A good friend of the show and a sometimes co-contributor of ours, Chael Sonnen, the American Gangster, finally settled a score with Wanderlei Silva, and the story of this fight was Sonnen's takedowns. The axe murderer had no answer for that. Sonnen took him down at will, held him there, and accumulated his points on the ground. Won a unanimous decision, 30-27 on two judges' scorecards, and even got a 10-8 round, 30-26 on one of the other cards. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I agree. I thought that it was awesome that Chael was able to go out there and do exactly what was necessary. Worked enough stand-up just to blast with those doubles, get the fight to the ground, and it wasn't like it was completely a technical overpowering. I mean, he also got clipped a little bit behind the ear there towards the middle of the first round, and had to fight back and recovered, came back up, took down Wanderlei, and I think he just showed that technically he's the superior fighter.
Yeah, Wanderlei was pretty frustrated at the end of the fight. I think he was hoping for a stand-up war, and definitely expressed his frustrations, maybe even a little too much so. There was a shove after the fight, and I think I saw at least one kind of after the bell shove getting up off the ground from Wanderlei. I don't know how proactive the State Athletic Commission is going to be on that, but we've seen that type of objection before from the stand-up fighter who says, "Oh, that sucks. The wrestler wasn't willing to stand and trade with me. He wasn't brave enough to do it. He just wanted to hold me down." But the answer to that always seems to be, well, whose fault is it if you can't stop the takedown?
Yeah, absolutely. If you you want to do a stand-up fight, I've always thought that was funny when I hear stand-up guys go, "Well, just stand in front of me." I'm all, hey, they have shit for that. It's called boxing.
Yeah.
It's called kickboxing. No one's going to be shooting on you now. And if you want to stand there and bang with somebody, they'll stand there and bang with you too.
Yeah, and, it was still cool from my perspective to see the fight, albeit however many years have passed now, 4 maybe, since these two were originally supposed to meet back in the UFC after they coached The Ultimate Fighter against each other, and then that fight got called off. It was still pretty cool to see him in there. I thought, particularly in the post-fight comments of Sonnen, as much, Frank, as we have seen Chael play that role before of the trash talker and the fight promoter and the hype guy, something about Chael Sonnen in, this latter end of his career looks to me like he's even going more so that direction. I mean, it's like the post-fight promos now are unapologetically full-on pro wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, he's not almost even just like a really just promoter for the whole show. I think some of the fighters are going to have to start giving him a percentage of the purses for what he's able to do to help sell just not only himself, but he sells the card, he sells the other fighters, he brings attention. I mean, he's I think a promoter's wet dream.
Yeah, I think so too. And even though it was a one-sided unanimous decision, I think because of some of the other outcomes that we saw on the card, and we'll talk about those as we go, but the fact that there were a lot of early finishes, there were, in at least in one particular high-profile case, kind of a freak injury finish that was disappointing. I think it was kind of good that the card concluded on a war of attrition, that we did see 3 full quality rounds from the names at the top of the marquee, even though the contest wasn't close. You agree with that?
I do. I think that there's something to be said about fights that end fast, but I think too that the whole card kind of goes that way. Especially we're not talking about first or second or third round finishes, but right. Being choked out in 24 seconds of the first round. I think that it helps satisfy people's need to watch a fight and see people out there. And Chael has a very entertaining style of grappling, and I think that if you watch the fight, when he gets the takedown, he's working to ground and pound, go for submissions. He's very active on the ground. If anybody wants to complain about the fight losing a little activity on the ground, It really was in Wanderlei Silva's court. He he locked the front headlock or guillotine there in the second round, and basically had no intentions of trying to finish it. He's just looking up at the referee and trying to take deep breaths and recover, and was trying to stall in the area that Chael was good at. So, I mean, it's a strategy. I mean, it's part of the fight game, but you can't complain about it. Those are the rules there are.
Well, the question now becomes, in the case of Chael Sonnen, who he fights next. Tito Ortiz was cage side, and it kind of looked like in the wake of the Sonnen victory that they were setting up for an Ortiz call-out. Of course, Sonnen lost to Ortiz via submission just a few months ago, but the possibility of that rematch is one option on the table. Then some were saying, well, do you do Wanderlei again? I don't know. The fight certainly wasn't very close, but the two of them could probably resurrect the trash talk enough to build hype for a second fight, maybe. Then the mystery guest in all this was the name that Chael Sonnen mentioned himself, which was Fedor Emelianenko, after Fedor was KO'd by Matt Mitrione. Now, he was asked about that in the post-fight press conference, and Fedor said, well, we're in different weight classes. I guess if Chael cut absolutely no weight, he could come in as the very lightest of heavyweights, perhaps. But what do you think about those three options? What's appealing to you, if any of them, for Chael?
Well, I think that Wanderlei missed an opportunity to really showcase the fact that he wants a second fight, because even though that I think that it'd be interesting watching rounds 4, 5, and 6 with him. That Wanderlei still hits hard. You saw an example of him glancing the shot off of Chael. That he's always very much in the fight if he can get to his feet. But he doesn't sell the fight. He did no promotional work. He's not willing to fly out of his hometown. He'll sell the fight. It doesn't work. And as a promoter, you realize that the fighters have to do their share of the labor, to get eyes on your event, to help sell pay-per-view buys. And so Wanderlei did not do his share of any work. He showed up to the fight because that's his strength, but that just wasn't enough, in my opinion. I think that you have someone like Chael Sonnen, you have to give him someone on the other side. So out of those three options, I think Tito Ortiz coming out of retirement, some of the banter and the shit talking that was going on outside the cage during and after the fight, I think makes huge sense. I think that that's the one that will, I think the first one in very controversially, like did Tito tap, did not, he caught Chael, I think the second one would garner a lot of attention, especially with knowing that Tito is a consummate businessman that fucking sells the fight. He's going to show up at the press conference. He's going to be there. He's not going to make excuses or use his phone in the bathroom, halfway around the world. And so, and then the talk about the Fedor fight, the only problem I have with that is, can Chael really sell that fight? I mean, I know that it'll be Fedor, still draws people's attention. And I think that as far as if they walk in the fight together, once you start the fight, I find it interesting. I think that, obviously, Fedor is a very small heavyweight. He's made light heavyweight before. He fought Dan Henderson in the past.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that a catch weight of 230, Chael walks around about that, I think is not a stretch of the imagination. It's just leading up to the fight. Again, it'd be a situation where it would be completely on the shoulders of Chael to try to bring attention and sell it. The level, maybe, Fedor doesn't have to do much anyways. I mean, he's the, what's the role he has of sports, head of sport there.
Minister of sport, I think it is, over in Russia.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure as long as you put Fedor on the card, you're going to have a bunch of Russian views. So I mean, I like both those options. I guess again, going back and reiterating, the weakest one of them is a rematch with Wanderlei, which really Wanderlei only has to blame himself. I mean, now he's sitting there and say, okay, the fight's a fight, the sport is over with, and now you collect your money, and you could have collected more. This was a pay-per-view event. Had you put a little more effort towards it, now people are more aware of watching this fight.
Yeah, I think that of the three, the most obvious outcome of another fight is probably going to be a rematch with Wanderlei simply because of the clash of styles, and Sonen's no dummy. He's gonna do what worked for him the second time just as well as he did the first. So I agree. I kind of take that one off the table first. The Fedor fight, you're right. I mean, Fedor just never really says much of anything anyway, and so he's not going to naturally be your guy to promote the fight, and maybe even more problematic than having Wanderlei not show up to do a lot of publicity. Fedor will show up, but there's not a lot of reason to be mad at him or to hate him, and he's probably,
he's Miles. He looks like someone's teddy bear. It's like it's like your uncle that showed up at Christmas, got a quiet, nice guy. I mean, I don't think I've ever met anybody that dislikes Fedor.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, have you ever met anybody who goes, yeah, that guy, he's a dick?
No.
I mean, I don't think I've ever heard that sentence put together in any serious